Okay.
So I just wanted to say welcome to everybody. We'll go ahead and get started today. So today's presentation is on Union Station, and Dr. Tate is here to speak with us about it. And if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that, put it in the chat or the Q&A panel. We will hold the questions until the end of the session and address them at that time. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Tate now.
Well, thank you, Tricia. Really appreciate what you've done in setting the event up and for making available some very, very important images to this talk. As the title suggests, we're talking about the Alexandria Union Station, which has been around since 1905. And see, I want to move it to the next.
The arrow keys on the panel.
Yeah. Doesn't move it.
Let's see.
We have a little technical difficulty here. The next image shows the, okay, very good. Shows the Union Station. It's a photo that I took very recently. The station is 116 years old. Its anniversary was last month, as a matter of fact. September 15th, 1905 was when it opened. And it has been owned by several entities. From 1905 to 1971, it was owned by the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad, RFP for short. In 1971, Amtrak bought it and held it until 2001. And 2001 to the present, it's owned by the city of Alexandria. A very, very busy station, and we'll talk more about that. I visit the station frequently and always see a lot of people coming on and off Amtrak trains, on and off BRE trains. I see the metro in the background. It's probably, I would say, one of the busiest, if not the busiest, building structure in Alexandria. Aside from minor improvements, which I will cover, the structure has remained basically the same. Not much has changed. The talk will take you inside the station and you will see some of the changes due to renovation, but the outside is basically what you see here. The federal architecture style, together with some elements of colonial revival, make this a beautiful, beautiful station. And I think we're very, very fortunate to have it. And hopefully it'll be here for years to come. But before we go into more detail, I want to go back in history a little bit just to kind of set the stage. And in the 1700s, basically transportation was done by sailing ship. I took this picture. I was fortunate to take it. There's a schooner that was out for a run on the Potomac at the foot of Orinoco Street. And I couldn't help but take a photo shot of it. But it reminded me of the way things were back in the 1700s, when this was the way they transported corn and tobacco and wheat. Was done this way. And things changed in the 1800s. And we have reminders of how it changed too. The Orange and Alexandria Railroad was chartered in 1848. And this tunnel, which still exists today, from Royal Street under Fairfax Street, under Lee Street, and under Union Street. And it ends at the river, at the Potomac River, is the way that the Orange and Alexandria Railroad got its product from the Wharf area to Central Virginia, the Piedmont region, Culpeper, Gordonsville, communities like that. And I just, as a side note here, it was built in 1856, still around as it was. And there are those in the community with Halloween coming up feel that this tunnel is haunted. I'm not sure whether I'm going to test that opinion or not, but you're welcome to do it. Let me know if there's some degree of this tunnel being haunted, but that's what I've heard, that it does have that characteristic to it. The Orange and Alexandria also has another structure that remains. This is the Hoof Run Bridge. It's off of Duke Street on Jameson Avenue, a little bit difficult to find, but it carried the Orange and Alexandria over the Hoof's Run, and it's still there. Structurally, it seems to be sound. A lot of the things are gone connected with the Orange and Alexandria, and one of those is the roundhouse. That's been taken down. You won't see that. You'll see residents and other buildings around this area, just off of Duke Street, and it is. It's a shame, actually, that it was taken down, but I understand it. Another structure, or not structure, but an area that was taken down was the Potomac Yards, and this was gone in early 1990s. The roundhouse that we just talked about was gone in the early 1980s. But this yard here was Potomac Yards, which is now mostly residential, mixed use. Virginia Tech is now going to build their innovation campus there. It's just changed around, and it's very understandable why this structure has been eliminated. It was a busy yard, 400 acres of activity, and 5 railroads came here and brought freight cars for classification. It disappeared in the early 1990s, as I said. But I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Potomac Yards, because it has a great bearing on the Alexandria Union Station. And the Alexandria Station, Potomac Yards, just didn't pop out of nowhere. I'll go back just a bit here and just talk about the activity at the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Yards area. These are the railroads in the latter stages that brought freight to the yard for classification: the Conrail, the Chessie system, which is the Chesapeake and Ohio, Delaware and Hudson, and the Southern Railway. Pennsylvania Railroad had a lot to do with the Potomac Yards, had a lot to do with the Alexandria Union Station as well. This railroad was the biggest railroad in the United States. It was chartered in 1846, and by 1872 was one of the biggest corporations in the country, if not the biggest. It basically ran 11,000 miles of track from New York City westward to St. Louis, to Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati. The road basically covered 10 states. It did not have any connection to the South. Repeat, did not have any connection to the South. It really wanted to connect to the southern states, and it needed that link, and Alexandria was that link. What it did, basically, these are some facts of how it got itself involved. It acquired the Alexandria and Washington Railroad. It also extended and created the Alexandria and Fredericksburg line, which is indicated here. They merged the both, and behind all of this was the Pennsylvania Railroad. Basically became in the final analysis, it became a subsidiary of the RF&P, the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad, which incidentally, the Pennsylvania Railroad had a lot of stock, heavily invested in that railroad. So bottom line, Pennsylvania Railroad was behind Potomac Yards. It was behind the building of the Alexandria Union Station. Let me go back just one image here. So Pennsylvania Railroad came down from the north. This line went from Washington to New York City, Baltimore. And once the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad was created with a lot of help from the Pennsylvania Railroad, that railroad had its link to the South. And that's basically what RF&P was known as. That was their logo, linking north to south. And with Richmond down here, and from Richmond, RF&P ended, and passengers then were basically on the Atlantic coastline to Florida, the Seaboard Airline Railroad to Florida. But it's this linkage right here is what Pennsylvania Railroad was looking for. Sorry about that. Okay, so once this Pennsylvania Railroad had that linkage, they constructed the Alexandria Union Station. This is how it looked in 1905. Some work was putting the finishing touches on the station. You can see in the background some ladders here and a little bit of track work, but this is the way it looked. And people came to visit. Women in the carriage, looks like gentlemen here looking at the platform, and note this covered wagon here. Probably, I guess, no, it was motorized. I guess I was going to say horse-drawn, but it's not likely. The station was put to good use. Let me talk about this. This is the way it appeared in the 1920s. In this colorized postcard. It was beautiful then, it's beautiful now. A few structural changes, which we'll get into in a minute, but nonetheless, it remains just as you see it here over the past 116 years. As I mentioned before, it was put to good use very quickly in World War I, where this article appeared in the Alexandria Gazette on November 1st, 1917, when 2,500 soldiers, let's see, upwards of 2,500 people were in the parade, which escorted drafted men to the Union Station, where they left the city for Camp Lee at Petersburg. And then over here, in 1919, again during the World War I period, this subheadline reads, 40 old ALI men scheduled to come home. ALI, I'm not sure what that means. I think has to do with light infantry. I'm not sure what the A means, but Alexandria was not out of providing soldiers for World War II, and when they went away, they bid them goodbye. When they came back, they welcomed them home. This is the way the station looks today, from the George Washington Masonic Memorial, about 150 feet above King Street. And we'll talk more about this at the end of the talk, but the station fits right in, no question. Here's King Street, here's the Amtrak line, CSX line, and aside the Metro line as well. In fact, you can see the Metro canopy here. So let's hone in on the station itself. Again, you can see basically a federal style architecture. These dormers are characteristic of colonial revival architecture. And there's one other element that I'll talk to that has its roots in colonial revival architecture. Here's the breezeway, which is now enclosed, glass enclosed. It wasn't always that way. The breezeway in 1997 was glass enclosed, and here's a structure, an image showing how they changed it and glass enclosed it. You can see in the background, if I can see, Trish, I want to get this image up a little bit magnified. Can we do that?
Let's try.
Okay, good. Okay, these are RF&P cabooses, and basically what this logo says is linking north to south. So in 1997, the RF&P was still running on these tracks. Things will change as I'll talk about. I'll come back to the.
Next one.
Let's see, one, come back to the next. Okay.
Does it want to do it?
No, it won't go.
Let's see. There we go.
Okay. So here is the front up close. Notice the front window here, and we'll look at it from the inside in a few moments. But this is also characteristic of colonial revival architecture. It doesn't really reveal its beauty unless you look at it from the inside, which we'll do. Here's a side view. And this is now, it was the baggage room. And this was one of the minor changes that was made, mostly an interior change, but nonetheless important. It is now constitutes the men's room and the women's room, the restrooms. And you enter that area through the breezeway. And we'll see more detail of that in a moment. But this was a baggage area, baggage room as the station was constructed. It was changed in 1978 to accommodate the restrooms. Here's more of a view of the baggage room, the former baggage room, which now is the restroom that constitutes the restrooms. This picture taken inside the breezeway shows the restroom, the men's room here, and the women's room is over on this side. I want to talk a little bit about the brickwork. You won't see this very often in Alexandria. This is what's called a Flemish bond, where you have multicolor to the brickwork, and you can see the lengthwise bricks are one color, and then the let's say the transverse bricks are another color. These are called stretchers, and the transverse side of this brick is called a header. And I think that the way they change colors, the normal brick color is red due to the iron content in the brick when they fire it in the kiln at very high temperature and solidify into a brick solid structure. It turns red. But you can change that color by putting a black glaze over it. The brick is actually very porous and holds the glaze very, very well. Let's take a close look at that. This is what we're talking about. This is the way it was constructed, and this is the way it is now. So the next time you're in the station, take a look at this on the side of the former baggage room. Beautiful brick structure, not available too many places in Alexandria. Let's go inside. This has been renovated, I'm sure. The tile floor, I think the benches may be original. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised. The ticket office, I'm sure has been renovated. Talk a little bit about the tile floor because it is beautiful. A Greek key style. These are the mosaic tiles, but this is a Greek key style that really lends a lot of beauty to the inside of the station. Benches. Here's the ticket office, and around the station inside, in the waiting room, you see pictures of old railroads, Chesapeake and Ohio that went through here, the Southern Railroad, et cetera, et cetera. Back here, we're looking towards the restroom. And this gentleman is probably walking past the restroom on his way outside. You look at the ceiling. These box beams, I'm sure, have been put in during times when they renovated the inside. I'm not quite sure where the lighting came from, but that looks like it's been around, and it could be very well considered an antique. Here's the inside of the station looking towards the front door, and here is that window that I was telling you about. colonial revival style. Just a beautiful element of the station, and it really adds a lot to the architecture. Let's go outside again, turn around and look at the platforms. Now we're basically, this is the ticket office here from the outside. You can again see the Flemish bonded brick, and we're looking towards the north here. And there's a doorway again. If you look closely, you'll see the windows on the back side of the station overlooking the platform. This is the main platform, which I will call the west platform, because there is an east platform as well, and we'll talk about that. The stairs here that you can just make out, maybe pretty hard to see, but here they are, and they go down and connect to the street level. They also connect to a tunnel that goes underneath the tracks and over to the other side of the platform, which I will call the east platform. So it connects basically the west or main platform to the platform on the east side. Let me just check the time here. Okay. This is the way it looked probably around 1970 when this bicentennial collection was put together. People would come down the stairs, enter the tunnel, and be able to catch the train on the other side. Undoubtedly, the tunnel has been renovated. I remember looking at the tunnel some years ago, and it was basically leaking water, but not so anymore. It's been renovated, and they've done a great job. So underneath the tracks coming up on the other side, this is the portico or canopy on the other side. These individuals are waiting for a train, probably coming from the south, headed towards DC. There are 3 tracks here. This is the number 3 track, number 2 track, and then over here here I should say probably better seen as the number 1 track. All owned by CSX today. We'll talk a little bit about CSX in a minute. This is the way that platform looked back in 1970. It was longer, but this is the original platform that was constructed as part of the 1905 station. You can see the freight cars in the back. We'll talk a little bit about that. There was a freight house back there, which I'll discuss in a minute. So this is looking down south. Believe it or not, that's the Duke Street Bridge right there. So we've got the east platform here, the west platform over here. Looking south, Duke Street Bridge, 1970. This is a colorized photo. Again, showing a better view, I think, of the east platform, Duke Street Bridge, and then the main platform or west platform over here. The freight house, not there anymore. Made room for the metro, and probably I think the mid-1950s, when the metro was just getting started and expanding. Norfolk and Western is not here anymore. They merged with another railroad to become, actually the Southern Railroad, to become Norfolk Southern. But there's a boxcar at the freight house. There's an engine probably headed back to Potomac Yards. Let's see, Trish, behind my image here, that I want to point to that sign. I want to take my picture off of there if I can. How do I do that?
You want to zoom in on it? Or-
No, we- I just want to point to that sign in the back if I can.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Take my image off of there. That's fine. Okay, this let me come back one. No. Okay, there was a factory back here next to the freight house. I think it was called United Key Products, or the best I could make out. That's not here anymore either. But this freight house in the back served that particular manufacturing site. Okay, let's come back to what it looks like today. No more freight house, no more RFP. We've got CSX. Basically, they own the tracks, and Amtrak rides those tracks. We'll talk about that in a minute. These engines are very powerful, usually 4,400 horsepower. There are 3 of them, and these trains are long, headed down towards Florida, where they have the main CSX freight yard. They don't stop anymore at Potomac Yards. They have CSX basically owns all of the East Coast tracks. And this has been in existence since, I think, 1999, when they divided up Conrail. And CSX took half, roughly. Norfolk Southern took the other half. So if you're waiting for your train, passenger train, you're likely to see CSX pass with up to 100 freight cars. A lot of them are what are called stack trains, going down to ports along the East Coast, headed south. There's an Amtrak train coming on track 3. Over on track 1 is the CSX freight train. So there's always trains coming and going here. There's one just entering on track 2, Amtrak train. I included this, just take a close look at the Duke Street Bridge and compare it to what we saw before. No more RFP. This is what it looked like before, pre-CSX, pre-Amtrak. This is the logo that I was talking about. So basically, from Washington down to Richmond, the passenger trains were powered by RF&P diesels. In the background, you see that freight house I was talking about. No more RF&P. It's all Amtrak. So you can board here in Alexandria, and you can take a train all the way up to New York and beyond, to Boston, to upwards into New York State, Albany, and over to Chicago. This line here is an extension that goes through Albany and from New York. You can take a train from Alexandria to Florida. You can take a train from Alexandria to New Orleans. You can go on Amtrak, about 20,000 miles of track that they cover, and go any place. A really tremendous system. In addition to Amtrak at the station, BRE, very busy. This is what they call a push-pull operation. It goes to Manassas. One goes to Manassas. Let's see if we have that here. I can't distinguish it on that map. But one line goes to Manassas, another one's to Fredericksburg. So get down there, And next morning, they don't have to turn the train. The engineer will come from the locomotive to this, what they call this control car, and head back up to Washington. Unique operation, very efficient. These are high-level cars, carry a lot of passengers. There's the engine, Duke Street Bridge, track 3. In back of track 1, where the freight house used to be, is the metro line. Very busy, and talk about how busy it is. These are the metro trains now. I took this photo 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And these were the metros that were coming along shortly. The north, the yellow line, the blue line, and not to mention the buses over there too. They have no shortage of buses to take you to Braddock Road, to Eisenhower Avenue. But I want to focus here for a minute. Now this is in, let's assume from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Amtrak trains. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 VRE trains. Very, very busy station. And I would estimate, just an estimate on my part, that you're looking at thousands of passengers. And there was a piece of data that Trish gave to me before the talk. In 2017, Amtrak served about 200,000 people at the Alexandria Union Station. So if you couple in the VRE passengers, and if you want to, the metro passengers coming over to board Amtrak trains, you've got quite a rail hub here. And I think that's one of the underlying things I wanted to mention. We should be proud of that rail hub. Very, very busy, and it serves Alexandria very, very well. Okay, we're coming to the end here. This is what it looks like, an overview from the Masonic, GW Masonic Memorial. You can see the Wilson Bridge in the background. You get off at the station. There's the Alexandria Union Station. There's a Hilton Hotel. There's a, I forgot the name of the other hotel. It's right across the street. You can board a Old Town trolley if you want, right as part of the metro facility, and go down King Street. A myriad of very, very excellent restaurants. Let's see if we can see anything else. I think the casino, if you look carefully, you probably can see the casino there too, across the Potomac River. You want to learn more about the Union Station? These are some websites that you can take a look at. I'll leave those up there and be happy to take any questions. We have about 15 minutes for questions. That will bring us to the 12 o'clock hour, Tricia. Okay.
So I was answering a few in the chat as we went along. The first question was about the tunnel between the Wharf and Royal Street. And is it still open? And could one walk it safely? So it is a bike and pedestrian tunnel now. The Wilk Street Tunnel?
Wilk Street Tunnel, yeah. It is a pedestrian tunnel, right? Yeah. They took the tracks out in 1975. Is that the question? Or?
Yeah, they were just wondering if it was walkable, available.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah, very. A lot of people use it to go to the park. There's a Wolf Street Park right at the end as you come under Union Street, and very historic.
The next question, a bit more complicated. I don't know how easy it'll be to answer, but it was given the importance of the link between north and south linkages of the railroad, R&D. Was there public government funding provided to the rail link and Alexandria Station, in addition to the private funding that came from the Pennsylvania Railroad?
My understanding, there could have been some along the way, but the Pennsylvania Railroad, like I said, was heavily involved in the construction. The engineer was from the Pennsylvania Railroad, designed the Alexandria Union Station. Now, when you talk about the improvements and other changes that were made to the structure, I'm not so sure that was all Amtrak or all RFP. I think the city of Alexandria may have had a say in that. But I can say, I think that in the beginning, Pennsylvania Railroad wanted that link badly. And they acquired the Alexandria and Washington. They established that Alexandria and Fredericksburg link. And they built they were behind the Potomac Yards, and they were behind the Alexandria Union Station. The renovations along the way probably were public funded. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
And then the last question was about whether or not the station, given its architectural quality and everything, whether it was had any preservation protection. And I did answer, it does appear to be on the Virginia Historic Register.
It is. That's a good point. It is. I would say that I don't recall I would say the application was made
It looked like maybe
1995, I think. They made application to make it a historic site. And since that time, I'm sure it is. So if that's considered preservation, yes, I think it's here to stay.
And then, are there plans to expand the Alexandria Station given the growth of rail passenger usage and the suburban spread of DC and the support of the current president for rail?
Good question. It probably deserves expansion, but there are no plans that I know about. I think they're making some improvement on the bridge that runs over King Street.
Yeah, I noticed they were working on that.
Yeah, they were working on that. But actually, I don't know if there's expansion. That would be a city of Alexandria issue. They have the money. They have to get together with CSX, who owns the tracks, and Amtrak. They'd all have to get together. I have not seen any kind of discussion along those lines at all.
Well, and would they consider like they just redid the bus depot and the metro side of things that were on the other side of it. They'd be somewhat limited in what they could do with the historic preservation aspect to Union Station itself, correct?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, it's interesting what they just put up, excuse me, in the last couple of days, a big sign, it wasn't a sign, it was a kind of a stone structure that said Amtrak. Yep. Amtrak's very, very proud of serving Alexandria, but you're right, there is no room unless they move it towards, is it Callahan? I think it's the address is 110 Callahan, which connects King Street over to Duke Street in front of the station. And boy, I'm telling you, parking is at a premium, because in front it's very, very, parking is very, very limited. And also the city of Alexandria, all their service trucks park, let's say, to the south along Callahan, up on that hill. Up on that hill.
Well, they also have a section of that lot that gets set aside for like fundraising events, like the, I think Christmas tree sales.
Oh, that's up there. Yeah, that's a lot. That's what I'm talking about. That is owned by City of Alexandria, and they use to park their service vehicles up there. I mean, I sneak up there once in a while to get a good view of the trains. But if City of Alexandria wants to sacrifice that area, they can do it. They own the station. That's a good point. You know, 200,000 passengers served by Amtrak in 2017. I'm sure today it's much more, not to count the VRE passengers. So we could be up around 300,000. And who knows, with Amazon coming to town, with the Virginia Tech Innovation Campus, with all that expansion out where the Potomac Yards used to exist. I mean, if you go out there, and they're going crazy out there. It's a lot of structure out there. No more Regal Theater, and it's amazing.
I always wonder if it is with that area right around Union Station, if they've done as much as they can right now, and they're going to have to rely on people shifting from the rail onto the metro to just navigate within. And
Yes.
that's why Potomac Yards, that is so important there with what's going on.
Yeah, there's a metro station there too. That's a good point, especially with gas prices the way they are. BRE probably will have to, might want to expand their service as well. But again, there's a limit. It's limited by the CSX tracks. CSX runs those freight trains. I mean, and there are all kinds of trains that, you know, coal trains, stack trains, mixed freight trains, tank cars. I mean, it is busy, and I think as the economy expands, they would have to consult CSX to see whether or not the traffic can be controlled. That traffic is controlled by the CSX dispatcher down in Jacksonville. So the movement of the Amtrak trains, the VRE trains, all controlled by CSX. So, and they have to juggle that. That's why if you go out to, I'll maybe talk about this in the future, if you go out to the interlocking out there, AF interlocking along farther out off of Duke Street, it's an amazing set of abilities to switch from one track to another. Much more complex than it was before.
Well, it looks like that's it for the questions. Oh, hang on, I may have missed one. Let's see. One more. So with today's supply chain issues in the news, will trains be able to help alleviate any of that congestion?
Yeah, I think if it's a matter of shipment, but supply chain basically starts is the root of the supply chain. It's not with the CSX, it's with the shipping ports, finding the people, the workers to offload those stacks of imports. That is important in the supply chain. I think CSX will handle it. They just put on a few more engines, and they can, instead of carrying 100 cars, they'll carry 125. It's a good question because in addition to putting the power up front, they put power in the middle of the train. If you watch the CSX freight train go by, they may have 2 or 3 engines up front and 1 in the middle. So they can go 100, 110, 120, 150 cars. So I don't think the problem is with CSX. They'll handle whatever they have to handle. It's, I think, in the front end, not the back end.
That looks like all the questions. So thank you everybody for coming.
Yep.
And we'll hope to see you soon at another event.
Okay, thanks for attending, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.